All right. So before we start, I just wanted to give a little disclaimer that I hadn't originally planned on calling this How to Be a Badass with a Good Ass, but I saw it on someone's Instagram feed and I was like, I love that. And I thought it resonated with me because last year I read a couple of books on how to be a badass and they were great books. And this idea of a badass, let's start with defining what that is. Like, what does it mean to be a badass? So in my opinion, a badass is someone with a lot of confidence, a lot of self-love. It's someone who's living life on their terms and is unapologetic about taking care of themselves and going for what they want. And it's for someone who isn't held back by worrying about what other people think or their own limiting beliefs, because we all have limiting beliefs, but it's a matter of if we choose to listen to them or not. And the good ass part is a result of being healthy and strong and fit. So today's webinar, I'm going to share with you how we can create powerful daily routines based on healthy habits that cultivate self-love, confidence, and the energy required to help us reach our goals. So this webinar is going to be packed with lots of information. So please remove all distractions, silence your cell phones, turn off any additional browsers so that you can be 100% present. And I recommend that you take some notes because I've got a lot in here. There's a lot that I wanted to share with you today. So you're in the right place if you lack energy, motivation, and drive to be consistent with your health goals. And this is something I hear time and time again. It's like we get started on the right foot, and then by January 17th, that's when most people have given up on their New Year's resolutions and have resorted back to kind of the old ways. And then we end up making the same resolution on average 10 years in a row. So it's obvious that, there's a problem with staying consistent. It's also for you if you feel stuck in your life or with your health issues that you're dealing with and you want a breakthrough this year. You're sick and tired of being sick and tired. There comes a point I found, with myself and with other people, my students, that you're just done. You're done with your own bullshit. You're done with not feeling good. You're ready. There's a point where you are ready for a change. So if you feel like you're at that threshold and at that crux point, then you're in the right place. It's also for you if you've had trouble reaching your goals in the past. So again, like I said, we start off on the right foot, maybe for a few days, maybe even for a few weeks. And then we often just fall off the wagon, whether that's sticking with a diet or sticking with an exercise plan or sticking with intentions to, quit a bad habit or whatever it is. And it's also for you if you don't set goals because you don't think there's any use in doing so. And I hear this all the time too, that, I don't do New Year's resolutions or I don't do goals. And I think that it's a human drive to want to grow and to want to work towards something, to want to evolve. And sometimes it's our own lack of self-trust that holds us back because we failed in the past. And somehow we feel that because we failed in the past, we can't do it. So we stop trying, which is really, really sad, which means that we just stay where we are year after year and we don't really progress much. And we end up just succumbing to mediocrity in our lives. And that doesn't feel good. So we end up feeling bad about ourselves and we feel like achievement isn't possible. This is also for you if you know that you're not living to 100% of your capacity and you're ready to make this year different. So if you feel like you are capable of more, if you have potential inside of you and you know you are not moving towards it or not doing the best that you can, then you are in the right place. And then lastly, it's if you want to start prioritizing your health and you want to start taking better care of yourself, if you want to start taking more time for your own self-care and doing the things that you know will make you feel good so that you can start to get better every year as opposed to go into a downward spiral every year, because you're going in one direction. So you have to take a moment and ask yourself, what direction am I going in? Am I growing? Am I improving? Am I getting better? every year? Or is the compound effect of my negative habits year after year actually making me get worse? And am I gaining more weight every year? Or do I have more bad habits? Or do I feel like I'm wasting more time? So ask yourself that, like, what's the trajectory of your current habits and your current lifestyle and your health right now? So why am I talking about this? Just want to talk about my story for a few moments. So I have two boys, one's 6 and one's 9. And 6 years ago, after I had my second son, I was suffering from postpartum depression. I was lonely. I was overwhelmed all the time. I felt like I never had enough time to do everything that I wanted. I was often stressed out. I would just get through the day with hyper caffeinating myself. And then at the end of the day, I would reward myself with a couple of glasses of wine. And this was perpetuating day after day. And I was really frustrated. And as a result, I was resentful to my husband. I blamed him for not supporting me enough. And then because I wasn't taking care of myself, I would get really impatient with my kids and be really reactive. And I would yell at them. And then I would feel really guilty. I'd have the mom guilt. And then that would perpetuate my unhappiness and my dissatisfaction with my life. And I just had this sense that this was not the life I was meant to live. And this is not where I thought I would be at this point in my life. I just didn't feel like I was in control. I didn't know what I wanted, and I felt really stuck. And so I was searching, and eventually I stumbled upon Ayurveda. And Ayurveda is the sister science of yoga. It's the most ancient healing science in the world. It's over 5,000 years old. And it comes from India. It comes from the same ancient text that yoga comes from. And I enrolled in a 9-month-long training course on Ayurveda. And initially, when I enrolled in the course, I was really interested in kitchen medicine and using kind of alternative ways to heal a cold. And I wanted to learn how to take better care of my family. But what I learned was way beyond that. I learned a whole new system of living and a whole new way of taking care of myself. And it was little simple things that I changed in that 9 months. It was, I changed when I went to bed. I changed when I ate. I changed when I woke up and what I did in the morning routine. And through these little changes in my daily routine, it's like the clouds started to part. This weight that was bearing down on me started to lift. I started to have so much energy, and I would wake up feeling really inspired and really energized and excited and motivated. And for the first time in my life, I knew what I wanted to do. Because up until that point, I didn't really know. I had things that I was interested in, and I would just kind of go with the flow of life and kind of follow, whatever was in my path, but I wasn't intentional. And when I started to do these habits, what happened was that I was letting go of a lot of old toxicity. And I'll talk about this a little bit later on. And that toxicity, and in Ayurveda, that word is called ama. It creates kind of like a fog and a cloudiness and a confusion where, you don't know what you really want, or you're not clear about, your next step, and you don't have a real sense of purpose in your life. And for the first time, I started to gain that sense of purpose, and I knew what I wanted to do. And I started to get really passionate, and I also had the energy to actually go and do it. So for the last 5 years, I have been dedicating myself to sharing this work, sharing the habits, sharing these really practical teachings of Ayurveda. And I've coached, at this point, 100 people into these healthier habits. And I've learned so much about how to reach goals, how to change behaviors, how to implement habits that stick, that you can stay consistent with. And I'm going to reveal some of that stuff for you today. All right. So what are you going to learn today? Number one is why you're not reaching your goals. What's getting in the way? You're going to learn how to create a daily routine to put you in a peak state so that you are feeling your best every morning, every day. How to optimize your energy so that you can be at your best and make better decisions. The root cause of your imbalances and simple ways to fix them. and 3 things you need to do to guarantee you'll reach your goals this year. And if you stay till the very end, there is a special offer. So why do people struggle with reaching their goals and give up or keep trying year after year and don't end up getting anywhere? The first thing is people don't know how. So there's a art and a science to creating goals and to changing habits. And there's books written about this, and it's something that I've really dedicated my own learning to for the past 4 years. And often people try to depend on willpower, and willpower does not work, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But we try to use like rigid discipline or motivation, and these things are fleeting. They are there often in like the start of the new year, or when we're the beginning of a time where we've decided we're going to change something, and then we can sustain it for just a little while, but it's not enough to keep going long term. And often, especially in the new year, we have all these great dreams and goals, and we often set ourselves up for failure by trying to do too much too fast all at once. And it's just not possible. Change happens slowly over time, and we can only realistically work on one thing at a time. So by trying to do too much, we end up doing nothing at all. You don't invest upfront. You have to put skin in the game. This is something that I've learned by making my own investments over the past years, is that when you're not invested, it's not that big of a deal. So you end up just kind of giving up. And then you let resistance derail you. So resistance is a given. Whenever you make changes, the ego rears its ugly head and protests, because the ego wants to maintain status quo. The ego wants to keep doing what's comfortable and what's easy. So when you challenge yourself and you set a goal to do something you've never done before, you're going to experience resistance. You're going to want to procrastinate. You're going to have that perfectionism idea that if I can't do it perfectly, that's not worth doing at all. You might feel indecision, like you might not be able to make a choice. You have lack of clarity. These are all ways that resistance shows up. And if you don't know how to deal with that resistance when it shows up, it will stop you in its tracks. And then you don't have an environment that supports you. And what I mean by environment is your community, your support system, your physical environment, like your literal house or your workplace. And then lastly is you try to do it alone. And we live in a society that really emphasizes the self-made man and autonomy and trying to do it all yourself. And the thing is that we are communal creatures. We are tribal creatures. We do better in community. And now, we've lost a sense of that with computers and everything's online. And although you can create an amazing community online, it's important to understand that, you are a product of the people that you hang out with. And if you're trying to make changes on your own without other people that are making those changes, you're making it really hard on yourself. So you also, lastly, haven't created a system that makes it easy to make good decisions on a daily basis. So in Ayurveda, the number one cause of all disease, all imbalances, all problems is called Rajana Parata. And I love this word, and it literally translates as crimes against wisdom. And it sounds very kind of gothic and Game of Thronesy, but it means that you don't do what you know you should do. It's going against your better judgments. It's making bad choices when you know better. And we all do this because we're human. And how do we not continue to make the bad choices? And the way you do that is through a daily routine where your habits are automated. And so automated habits happen automatically without you thinking about them. You just do them every day. And you have some automated habits already. Think about, you brush your teeth, hopefully twice a day. Maybe the first thing in the morning, you have a certain thing that you do. And there's certain things that, we can do it with our eyes closed. We don't have to make the decision to do it. And the idea is that you want to automate good decisions so that They are happening without you having to decide to do them, without you having to make the choice. And this is really important because a lot of people don't realize how big of a deal this is. And there's something called decision fatigue. And we have more choices now than ever before in history. Like, we are inundated with choices. You go to the grocery store and there's 100 different kinds of cereal. There's 100 different kinds of alternative milk. There's, 10 different varieties of apples. I mean, it's crazy. And the thing is, every day you wake up with, you can imagine it like this, a bucket of choices. And you can also consider this like a bucket of willpower. And every choice that you make takes a little bit of that willpower out of the bucket. And every choice, it's like, when you wake up, what are you going to eat for breakfast? What are you going to wear? What are you going to click on the internet? What are you going to, do the first thing? And so if you don't have these things, especially in the morning, automated and dialed in, and a ritual that you go through, then you end up using a lot of that decision-making ability, and then you run out. So that later in the day, and you might experience this, that you make much worse choices at the end of the day. At the end of the day, so for me, it's like Friday night, and my husband will say, hey, should we get some wine? And I'm so much more likely to say yes at the end of the day than I would if he asked me that in the morning. Hey, tonight, do you want to have some wine? I might make a different choice. So knowing this, that decision fatigue is a real thing, it's a real studied thing. How can we automate decisions so that we're not using that precious willpower on things that we just want to make sure we're doing every day, regardless? And then what it does is it frees up a lot of that energy to the more important things. So you want to have automated habits around eating healthy. You want to have automated habits around exercising daily, around having a morning routine, around doing the most important things first. And then you do those things, and then you start to really reap the benefits. And then there's a compound effect of doing the right things every single day. And then you start to get more vitality. You have more energy. Your immune system strengthens. You feel better every day. You have more positive emotions. You start to live more on purpose. You're more intentional. You have better relationships. Your whole life changes through an optimal daily routine. And that's really what the big message that I want to share with you today is. So you'll never change your life until you change something you do daily. The secret of your success is found in your daily routine. And I come back to this quote again and again and again because it is so, so true. And it's words that I live by. And I have created and refined and improved my daily routines on an ongoing basis. And that's the idea. That's the strategy that I use in my courses, that we would just want to get better every day. Just small improvements made over time compound so that we're living a life that's beyond our dreams. So, how do you want to feel at the end of 2018? So I want you to take a moment, if you can't even close your eyes, and really feel into what you want. And sometimes we're disconnected from our desire because we don't let ourselves dream, because some part of us doesn't believe that what we want is a possibility because we haven't been able to achieve it in the past. But I'm telling you, with the right strategies, with the things that I'm going to share with you today, it is possible. This has been proven. It's called neuroplasticity. We can change the way we think. We can change our minds. We can change our brains. And epigenetics. We can change our health. We can change our body. Our body is constantly regenerating. Our cells are constantly regenerating. We have the ability to turn off or turn on certain genes depending on our lifestyle. And it's simply a matter of the choices we make on a daily basis and our daily routine. So how do you want to feel at the end of this year? How do you want to feel in your body? How do you want to feel in your clothes? How do you want to feel emotionally? How do you want to feel spiritually? How connected do you want to feel? This real sense of trust. What do you want your health to be like? your fitness? How do you want to nourish yourself and take care of yourself? How do you want to spend your time? What do you really want to put and prioritize and put that most important? So getting clarity about what we want and how we want to feel and really experiencing that in our body is the first step. And when we do that, when we imagine, we see ourselves there, and we make this a practice to visualize that, we start to make it real, because what we focus on manifests and expands. And the more we can keep coming back to these things and seeing that person, our future self, the more we slowly start to move towards it. So believing that it's possible is the very first step. So I'm going to give you Ayurveda 101 in 5 or 10 minutes. And this is really the foundation of what I teach and the daily routine that I follow. And I'll explain why this routine makes so much sense and why doing it this way will help you streamline your energy and allow you to reach your goals. All right, so Ayurveda 101. Everything in the world, in the universe, including you, is made up of the 5 elements. 5 elements are space, air, fire, water, and earth. Now, it's not literally these 5 elements, but it's the energetic qualities of the 5 elements. If you think of the qualities of space, space is clear, it's subtle, it's etheric, it's expansive. So when you have a lot of space in you, like if you're someone that has a lot of space element, sometimes you might have heard the expression like spacey. And maybe it's also you're always in kind of your mind and your imagination. You always have ideas. You're kind of always not so much making things happen, but more reflecting on things. Air. So if you think of the qualities of air, air is mobile. It moves. It goes in all directions. Think of the wind. And what the wind does is it's drying. It has a drying effect. If you've ever had like a fan in a room, you have like a dry mouth when you wake up in the morning. It's drying, it's mobile, it's light, it's clear. If you have a lot of air in your constitution, in you, then you tend to be mobile. So you might walk fast, you might talk fast, you might be a busybody, you might be kind of all over the place. You can also think of like the air-headed. That's where some of those terminologies connect to the qualities of these elements. People with a lot of air element tend to be lighter physically, lighter bones, thinner. They also tend to be flighty. They forget things. Things come and go. They might travel a lot because they're kind of bouncing around from one place to the next or one interest to the next. People with a lot of air, and it's often combined with space, they tend to go towards anxiety and fear. So when they're out of balance, they feel anxious and fearful. And when they're in balance, they can be really creative and really inspired. They have lots of great ideas. And these are people that tend to get like really enthusiastic about things. Now, if you have a lot of fire, well, let's talk about the qualities of fire. Fire is hot, it's sharp, it spreads. It's also light. The energy moves up. Fire goes up. If you think of the triangle of the fire element, the symbol, it goes up. If you have a lot of fire in you, in your constitution, then you have more fiery emotions. Like out of balance, you tend towards anger or impatience. You might lash out. You might kind of burn people with your words. You might kind of say things that you later regret. In balance, a person with a lot of fire has a lot of drive, a lot of directionality. They know what they want and they're moving towards it. They're very kind of goal-oriented, high achievers. They tend towards inflammation. Think of fire in the body, infection. And they tend to be more medium build, good muscle tone. Sometimes you'll see the fire element in their skin, like ruddy skin or even red hair. And these, I'm just giving you a few things. You can go deeper into this if you want to by Googling what's my dosha, and you can do a few quizzes, and then it'll tell you what your dosha is and what elements you have a lot of, and then you'll learn a little bit more about yourself. So I recommend doing that. It's a fun thing to do. And then water element. So water is wet, obviously. The energy flows down, like water always goes down. So people with a lot of water element, they might literally be squishy. Like, have you ever like met someone that's kind of squishy? They feel like they have a lot of water element. They might retain water, literally. Their skin might be nice and plump and moisturized. And water is often combined. It's fire. People with a lot of fire also have some water, but then people with earth combine with water too. And so earth element is heavy. It's slow. It's dense. It's dull. And so people with a lot of earth element have a tendency to be more slow. They might learn more slowly. They might move more slowly. They might talk more slowly. They forget more slowly. So they might hold on to grudges. They tend to hold on to stuff. They tend to have kind of cluttered houses. They tend to hold on to weight. So they tend to be, tend towards being overweight. And they tend to want to eat emotionally. And these all combine to create doshas. Doshas are these energetic, it's the energies of the elements. So when you combine space and air, you get the dosha of Vata. And this is the principle of movement, of air, of wind. And here are the qualities, like I mentioned: dry, cold, light, erratic, mobile, rough, and irregular. And again, if you have a lot of Vata in you, you'll have more of these qualities, both energetically, physically, emotionally, mentally. And then Pitta is the dosha that is made up of fire and water. And this is the element, or this is the energy of transformation and metabolism. So this really governs our digestion. And if you have a lot of Pitta, then often you do have a pretty strong digestion. And so the qualities of Pitta are oily, hot, light, intense, fluid, soft, and spreading. And then Kapha is the dosha that is made up of the elements of water and earth. And this is the energy of lubrication and structure. If you even think about, if you combine mud or earth, soil with water, it creates mud. And you can literally, you can build a house with that. It's the structure. And so it creates structure in your body. And it's got the qualities of oily, cool, heavy, sticky, sluggish, smooth, and dull. Now, we all have all doshas in us, but to different degrees and varying amounts. So for example, I am predominantly Pitta, and then after that I have Vata, and then to a much lesser degree, Kapha. So I would be considered a Pitta Vata, and usually we're two, and one just a little bit more than the other. And like I said, just do a dosha test. I would recommend doing 3 and find out what you are. So these doshas not only govern us and how, maybe the imbalances that we tend towards, but it also governs the time of the day. Now, if you think of if we take Pitta, the one at the very top, this is when in the daytime, the sun is highest in the sky. The sun is literally the biggest fire element there is. So it makes sense that that would be Pitta time of day. It's governed by these qualities of fire. And so knowing that this is the energy of digestion and metabolism and transformation, our digestion is strongest, which means that to maximize our own, what's happening already in nature and in our bodies, we have the highest amount of bile in the middle of the day, which means that's when we should eat the most amount of food. And often we're running around and we're busy and we end up snacking throughout the day, and we don't sit down to have a nice meal in the middle of the day. And this is, when we take the time to do this, when we sit down, eat a nice meal that has a good amount of protein, a good source of fat, plenty of high quality nutrients, then we have sustaining energy through the rest of the day. And this is not what I used to do. I used to eat like cookies throughout the day or energy bars throughout the day, and then have my big meal at like 8 or 9 o'clock at night. And culturally, this is what we do. We eat our main meal at the end of the day. But what the problem with that is that as the sun goes down, our digestive fire goes down, which means that we're putting a big burden on our bodies when we're eating a big meal at the end of the day, because our body just doesn't have the capability to digest that. So what happens? What happens is that ama happens. Ama is the toxicity that I talked about. Ama literally means uncooked or undigested or unprocessed. And it can refer to food, undigested food, or it can also refer to unprocessed emotions or experiences. So we can have physical ama, which ends up being like the sticky goo sludge that adheres to the weaker organs in our body and the weaker tissues and creates like plaque literally in our cells. Or it can turn into mental ama, which is basically these limiting beliefs or these old stories that hinder us from moving forward throughout our lives. So when we, on a very basic level, eat too much food at the end of the day, we're creating ama. We're in an ama generating cycle because our body cannot fully digest that food. It can't burn it up. And what happens is that ama, it sticks around. It turns into fogginess. It turns into confusion. It turns into depression. It turns into extra weight. It turns into sluggishness. It turns into all the imbalances. So the number, what is the root of all our imbalances is ama. It's a product of not fully processing our food and our experiences. So Agni is our digestive fire. It's our digestive capacity. So we want to honor our digestive capacity by eating in the main meal in the middle of the day. And then making our dinner lighter and earlier. So right now I'm eating close to 5 p.m. because we're in the wintertime. In the summertime, you can get away with eating maybe closer to 7 p.m. But you really want to eat your dinner between like 4 and 7. Because the later you wait, the less you're going to digest that food and the more ama you're going to create. So what you'll hear a lot with people that, talk about morning routines are the way to go and the morning routines will change your life, and they absolutely will, but it starts the day before. So I always start with teaching my courses and teaching my students, let's start with eating an earlier, lighter dinner. And then after your earlier, lighter dinner, so let's go back to this clock. So Pitta time of day is between the hours of 10 and 2 in the daytime and also in the middle of the night. So it goes around twice. It's a 24-hour cycle. So if we think of dinner time, between 5 and 6, and then this is kapha time. So kapha, if you remember, this is the dosha that is comprised of the elements of earth and water, which are the heaviest. So kapha is energetically heavy, slow, sluggish, dull. And this is great for these evening hours because this helps us get ready for bed. So we want to harness those energies. This is not the time to catch up on email. This is not the time to stimulate on the computer or to rev up with having, alcohol and sugar, because these things will actually do the opposite of what our body wants to do at that time of day. What our body wants to do at that time of day is relax and slow down and get ready for bed and be easeful and connect with our family or our loved ones. That's what we're meant to do. That's what our bodies should do in that time of day. And if we don't do that, again, we're basically drawing from energy resources that will eventually be depleted. And this is why so many people have adrenal burnout and hormone imbalances and all these issues that are lifestyle related that are completely avoidable. So this time of night, this kapha time between 6 and 10, you want to eat your earlier dinner, you want to relax and slow down, and then you want to be in bed before 10. Now, again, this is culturally not what's happening. 10 is like early. I go to bed at around 9. And again, it's earlier in the winter, it's a little bit later in the summer, because it's all about the cycles of the earth. And that's Ayurveda understands that we are connected to our environment. We are not separate from our environment. Our environment highly influences us. What is going outside is a macrocosm of what's going on inside. We are a microcosm of the macrocosm. So depending on, the seasons and, what the sun is doing, what the weather is doing, it's going to affect us. And we know this. We know this instinctively, but we don't honor it. Now, what happens here? This is the crux point. 10 p.m. transitions from kapha into pitta, the second stage of pitta. And if you remember, energy or pitta energy goes up, fire goes up. Now, if we cross this threshold, we get a second wind. Our energy goes up. We want to midnight snack because that's our digestion turning on again. And ideally, that digestion turning on would be digesting ama. It would be doing deeper detoxification and cleaning our brain, cleaning our liver, cleaning and repairing organs and repairing our bodies so that we can wake up feeling better. And we are actually rejuvenated when we wake up in the morning. But if we're awake during this transformative time between 10 and 2, that stuff isn't happening. And if it's not happening, we're going to wake up feeling it. We're going to have the achy joints. We're going to wake up feeling heavy and not want to get out of bed. We're going to feel a little bit more sluggish and maybe even depressed and unmotivated. And we won't have that get up and go that's possible if we're eating earlier and going to bed earlier. Now, this is why, these are the routines that I have been doing and that I've been sharing: eating earlier, going to bed earlier. And then in this time, this is Vata time. So if you remember, Vata is comprised of the elements of air and space, which are light, clear. There's mobility, there's movement, there's a subtlety. So in every spiritual tradition in the world, this time of day between the hours, the pre-dawn hours, between 5 and 6, this is like prime time that you want to harness. This is like an hour of the day before the rest of the world gets up. This is the time to yourself. And a lot of, if you're a parent, this is time to ourselves is limited. And what I used to do is I would put my kids to bed, and then I was like, oh, that's time for myself. That's when I'll watch a show, or that's where I'll catch up on work. That's where I'll get on the computer. But again, that's depleting because the hours before 12 count for twice as much as the hours after. So it's more important that you actually go to bed earlier and have that time to yourself in the morning, because you'll feel better. You'll have more energy, and you'll be more in line with nature's cycles, which means that your body will work better. Everything will be more balanced. So we want to wake up in the time between 5 and 6, and we want to harness that time. We don't want to waste that time. We don't want to get up and the first thing we do is check our phone or check social media or check our email, which is what the majority of people do. And we are all addicted to our devices, and it's a big problem. They're showing that as far as changing our brain and neuroplasticity, it's changing it for the worse. We have less attention span. Our hormones are messed up because dopamine keeps getting triggered, because every time we get a notification or get a new email or get a like, dopamine surges, which means our serotonin level decreases. Serotonin is the hormone that helps us, feel good and be happy. And they're inversely related. So what do we want to do? And I have a whole webinar on this, on a morning routine, so I can share that with you. I won't go into it in too much detail, but in this time of day, we want to, in the first hour, you do not want to check your email. You want to wake up, you want to hydrate, because you're dehydrated when you wake up in the morning. You want to have at least 2 to 4 cups of water. So I have it warm, which helps go through the system and helps to detoxify the system. I have a little bit of squeeze of lemon, which is alkalizing. And then I right away go downstairs in my yoga room and I do 20 to 40 minutes of exercise, whether it's yoga or more body weight training or high intensity interval training. I mix it up, and that's important too. You want to have a variety of exercise. I meditate for about 15 minutes. And then I come upstairs after I've had my chunk of time to myself. And that's when I'll do some journaling. I'll review my goals. I will see what's most important for me to do. Maybe I'll even do my most important thing first and get it done, because I've created routines around doing that, around doing the most important things first. And when you do this, you will start to wake up feeling amazing. You will feel light. You will feel clear. You will feel inspired. You'll go to bed feeling satisfied because you've done the most important things. You've exercised, you've meditated. We're living in a stressful culture, and if we're not taking the time to meditate and to sit still and to process and to journal and to, take care of our bodies in the right way, it's absolutely non-negotiable if you want to reach whatever your goal is, that you do these things. And whether your goal is health related or not, these are foundational habits that you need no matter what. So I want to just take a moment. I'm going to stop the share and see if there's any questions so far, because I said a lot and I talked to Blue Streak, and some of you might be familiar with this and some of you might not. So I just want to give you the opportunity to ask any questions about the daily routine, the Ayurvedic clock, about anything that I mentioned so far. So you can unmute yourself if you're on a computer. If you're on a phone, you can press *6 to unmute yourself, or *9 to raise your hand. So if anyone wants to, if you want to raise your hand or just unmute yourself. And if not, I'll just keep going. 3, 2, 1. Okay, I'll keep going. Because as you can tell, I have a lot to say. All right, so early to bed, early to rise makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise. There's so much truth. And all the high achievers, they all talk about the importance of the daily or the morning routine. So it is well to be up before daybreak, for such habits contribute to health, wealth, and wisdom. And it starts, like I said, the day before, what we're doing the evening before. And this is from one of my students. She said, "My habits have shifted, especially my morning routine. I did not think it was possible for me to get up and feel rested and begin my day with a yoga practice. My routine sets me up for an easeful day. I feel present and unattached to what is going on around me and feel incredibly clear and present. I have more energy and I'm more aware of of what my body needs. I have received so much more than I had hoped. I feel that I've come to a deeper love, understanding, and acceptance of myself. I've noticed a lot of realizations relating to my personal relationships with friends, work, and family. I'm clear on what my boundaries are." And this is typical. This is what I hear from all of my students. And I did not always have these habits. I used to be a total night owl, and you could not get me up in the morning. It was like trying to pull someone from the bottom of the ocean. And the thing is, when you start to just align your clock with the greater clock, with the Earth's clock, then you automatically start to be able to wake up early. I don't use an alarm clock. I wake up on my own because all of my bodily systems have come into balance. And that's what happens when we are living in alignment with nature's cycles. And it changes you on all levels, not just physically. You not only, I've had my students, they lose weight without dieting because they don't have ama. Their body is fully burning their food, and it's starting to burn away that fat that they've been storing over years. And they start to wake up feeling better, and they start to implement these daily routines, daily exercise, daily eating, because the thing is, there's no quick fix. And often, we're kind of marketed so much that there is, and if we just take this supplement, or if we just do, this exercise program, or, just this kind of diet. But the thing is, it's a whole lifestyle. And we have to understand that it's not one thing. It's how we wake up. It's how we end our day. It's how we move through our day. It's our relationship to ourselves, and it's our relationship to our life and to Earth, and recognizing that we are not separate. So the thing is that knowing this stuff is not enough, because as we talked about before, we know what to do, but we're just not doing it. And that is the number one problem, is that this lack of integrity. And there's a word called akrasia that basically means the same thing. It's like we're not doing what we know we should be doing, or we're going against our better judgment. So how do you start to live in alignment with what you know is right? And how do you actually create these habits that you probably knew about them already before I told you kind of the Ayurvedic perspective of them, but how do you actually start to implement what you know and create these routines? And there are 3 things. What do you need to do? Change your environment. And this means that you get support. You put yourself in a community of people that are doing this stuff. And this is huge. When you have peer support and accountability, you're 85% more likely to stick to your goals. And this has been proven in many studies. And I talk about this a lot because it's something we have to realize, that if you are around people that are perpetuating bad habits, and if the people closest to you are doing the things that you really want to stop doing, it's going to be impossible. And there's a concept called social contagion, which means that we are highly influenced, even subconsciously, by the people in our social network. And this can be someone not even in our physical vicinity. It can be someone on the other side of the country. Maybe it's just a Facebook friend. But if the people that we're interacting with are overweight, or have relationship problems, or financial problems, or don't have healthy habits, we're going to be way more likely to do those things as well. On the contrast, if we put ourselves in communities and environments where people are actively working on their goals and are actively working towards healthy habits and are really making an effort, there's a whole momentum that's created that makes it so much easier for you to do those things as well. It's like this force that you get kind of sucked into and pulled forward. Even when you don't feel like it, it's like everyone around you is doing it, so you just end up doing it by default. And that happens for the better or for worse. So your environment is huge. The people you hang out with, the community that you're in, and then also your physical environment. So and this is something that I teach in great depth in my courses, is how do you set up your physical environment? Because environment is stronger than willpower. And again, this is subconsciously triggering us to do certain behaviors. So if your pantry, and this is really obvious, is filled with bad food, you're going to eat bad food. If you take the bad food out of your pantry and out of your kitchen, out of your house, you can't eat bad food. And that's just one simple example. So in my courses, we really go through our whole space. We declutter, we get rid of things that are not serving who we want to become, and we intentionally shape our space so that it prompts us to take the right behaviors. Number 2 is you have to commit 100%. So when you decide literally means to cut off. It means that you draw a line in the sand. You say, I'm doing this. And there you create like what's called a point of no return, where you decide that I'm going to make this happen no matter what. And you have to have a very strong motivation, a strong why for that. And again, this is something that I teach in my course. And I just did the Rock Your 2018 challenge, and I have a whole lesson on that in there, and it's free. So if you haven't done that, you can still do that. It's available for 1 more week. And then lastly is invest in yourself. Now, in 2017, I invested $25,000 in myself, in my health, in my goals, in my personal growth and development, and in my education. And that's everyone who has ever succeeded at anything has invested a lot in coaches, in courses, in guidance, in support, in strategies, in tools. And because when you invest in yourself, there's skin in the game. When there's skin in the game, you do what it takes. And there's also something really cool that happens when you invest in yourself. You instantly change your identity, because you all of a sudden, in a moment that you make that decision, you become someone worth working towards. You become someone worth putting in the effort for. And your identity becomes that of what you just invested in. And so it is the fastest way to change, because your identity shapes your behaviors. Your behaviors determine your results, your goals. So your identity and the behaviors that you're engaging in right now is a reflection of the person that you think that you are and what you believe you deserve. So if you only believe you deserve what you're getting right now, that's all you'll ever get. But the moment you invest in yourself, you're saying, I believe that I deserve more, and I'm investing in myself, and I'm doing what it takes. So I have an 11-week health coaching course. It's called Align and Thrive, where I take you through the 10 foundational habits of thriving health. And I've talked about just a few of them in this lesson today, but there are 10. And these are again, non-negotiable habits that if you want to thrive in your life on every level, you need these 10 habits. And we go through them slowly, step by step, and I use the behavioral change science, I use all the goal setting strategies, everything that I've learned over the years of coaching 100 people into these habits of what works. And it also works because you're in an environment, you're in a community of people that are working towards the same thing. We support each other. It's super fun. I use gamification. There are challenges. We have a whole accountability support system where you have mentors and you have mastermind groups so that you are guaranteed to get the results that you want, because I have set up every possible structure and implementation action that I can to guarantee it. So this is just some of the comments of people that have taken my course. Have said, I feel stronger and younger than I ever have. I'm not a slave to my job anymore. I'm putting myself on my calendar. It's given me permission to take time for myself. It's allowed me to reclaim my power and set better boundaries. I have more balance and feel more in control. I'm making more more conscious choices more consistently. Life isn't so hard anymore. I'm a lot more calm and get over things more quickly. It's helped me develop a kinder relationship with myself. I'm taking time to take care of myself. I'm letting go of being so hard on myself. I'm more accepting. I have the tools now to take care of myself. It's the ultimate self-care package. I'm really enjoying spending time with myself. It's given me a connection to my body that I never had. It's been life-changing. I'm letting go of the drama in my life. I found peace within myself. I'm more in the moment. Having these habits is very calming to me. I have more energy and have found room for more playfulness. I'm prioritizing what's most important. I'm more optimistic, I'm more positive, and have more joy. So it's pretty amazing, and I'm always blown away by the results that people get through these simple habits. They're simple habits, but they're not easy when you don't have the right support system, because knowing it, again, is not enough. You need to have the right environment, you need to commit 100%, and you need to invest upfront. So I'd like to offer you a free 30-minute strategy session with me, where in that strategy session, we'll get on the phone and we'll just talk about, this is a no strings attached opportunity to talk about what do you want to make happen this year? Where do you want to break through in your life and your health? And then what's stopping you? What's holding you back? We're going to uncover all this. We're going to uncover your why, your motivation, see if it is indeed a priority, if you're ready for it. And if you are, and if you really are serious about making some changes this year in 2018 and stepping into your potential, and if it's a right fit for both of us, then I'll make you an offer to join the course. And this is an exclusive course. There are only 5 spots left at this point, and we start January 22nd, so just in over a week. And registration closes in a week. So do this now, and I'm going to, let's see, in the chat window, I'm going to put a link in for that strategy session. So I just want to close with this quote. Every morning you have 2 choices: continue to sleep with your dreams or wake up and chase them.